So once you're done adding all of the devices that you're going to be using in your One Button Studio, so all of the lights that you have here, so I've gone through and added all of my lights in my room. I'm going to come over to the left-hand pane here, and just within all of these different sections, so devices you can leave alone, but for triggers, schedules, action groups, and control pages, I'm just going to delete everything out of there. So you can see here everything is empty except for these, so I'm just going to delete these two action groups. And just go ahead and delete all of these so it doesn't sort of send you automatic sort of things. You only need the bare minimum for the One Button Studio, so you can just delete all of those. Once you do that, you want to click into action groups. So action groups is where you're going to add certain actions. So this is where you're going to tell the lights to turn all on or all off. So we've added our devices here. When you're in action groups, you're going to do pretty much the same thing where you go up to new, and this is going to create a new action group. And you want to name this all lights on. And it's important that you name it all lowercase, so no capital letters, and that it's called all lights on specifically. The One Button Studio, when you plug in the flash drive, it calls this script specifically, named specifically that, so make sure it's all lowercase. And once it's named, in this type box, you want to go down to Insteon Actions, and you want the type to be execute Insteon scene. And once you do that, it's going to pop up with a bunch of these options here. So you want this first one, since you're turning all lights on, you want this to be scene on. So in the send box here, turn it to scene on. You can leave this scene selection alone. And then once you have this set, you go to modify this scene. And this is where you would add all of the lights into your scene. So you can see here I've added all of my lights already, just to give you, again, a sense of how to do this if you were doing this newly in One Button Studio. You would click on New Link to Responder, and then you would come down here, and within this window you can select the devices that you've added. So I deleted my key light out of the list, so I'm just going to add my key light back in. So you now see that I have key light up in this list, and again I just repeat that for the rest of the lights. And once you have them all added into that list, you want to click on Sync Now in the corner, and that's going to go through syncing all of those lights up to this action group. So again, this is probably going to take a minute or two. Just let it go. This window will disappear when it's done. So just let it go, and once it's gone through synchronizing everything, again, it's going to sort of finish up that way. And now once it's done syncing, you can click on Close here. And you'll notice here that all of these settings are correct. All of my lights are added within that scene. So I can just hit OK. And now I have this action group that says all lights on. And again, just to test to make sure that this is working correctly, once you have all lights on, you can go down here to the left-hand corner and click on Execute All. And that should turn all of your lights on. And then you'll also notice if you go to devices, you'll see once I click on execute, all of my lights are on the on position. So I could turn those off if I wanted to. So now we have all lights on. We're going to now make an all lights off action. So again, in action groups, click on new, and you're going to name this one all lights off. And again, all lowercase. You're going to say that the type is Insteon action, execute Insteon scene. And then within this send window here, you're going to change this from scene on to scene off because you want the lights to turn off instead. The thing that you won't have to do this time around is add in all of those lights. So everything that you've added into that first action group, the all lights on action group, all of those lights are going to show up here by default, so you don't have to modify the scene. And once you have all lights on, you just hit OK. And now you can see in action groups you have all lights on and all lights off. So if you have all lights on and then select all lights off and hit execute, that should turn your lights off. And you probably just heard a click in the room. That was just the lights turning off. So now I have all lights on and then all lights off. And I have all of my devices within Indigo. So now everything from the One Button Studio is going to trigger in Indigo. So once this is all configured, you won't have to really touch Indigo again unless something goes wrong with the PowerLink modem or anything with the lights. But you should be able to just sort of hide the Indigo window, and then you'll be good to go to start using the One Button Studio.